Hi, I'm Jacie, and I'm going to be talking about social perception or person perception, which I believe we covered in chapter 13. So you're probably wondering, what is social perception? Well, social perception, also known as person perception, is using social information to form impressions of others. In other words, you perceive a person a certain way by how they look or the way they are behaving. I thought that the picture of the two people looking at each other through the little keyhole was perfect for social perception. We only see a small glimpse of who a person actually is based on what we can see with our eyes, yet we come to a strong conclusion about that individual. There are many examples of social perception. The first example I have is when someone is rolling their eyes at you. When you see them do that, you perceive them as disagreeable. You may even think that they're close-minded. The next example is when you meet someone and they look angry. You might think that they are unhappy or not really that much fun to be around. The last example I have is when someone raises their hand in class all the time. You automatically think that this person is smart because they always have something to say. Now that we have gone over what social perception is, let's get into an experiment that has tested this. The hypothesis for this experiment is that individuals would be seen as more likable and trustworthy if their facial expressions were seen as they are anticipated. For example, imagine that it is your birthday and you get the present you really wanted. So you are expected to look happy or surprised. However, if you were to look like you're about to kill someone, you might not be seen as trustworthy as the person who looks like it's the best day of their life. In this experiment, the independent variable was whether or not the expression matched the scenario given. The dependent variable was if the person seeing the expression thinks that the person is trustworthy and likable or not. The participants that had volunteered to be in this experiment were 40 young adults, both male and female. In the experiment, they used pictures of faces from a laboratory face set. Each one of the participants received different faces. The faces portrayed either a neutral face or one of the three stereotypical emotions: happy, sad, or fearful. Just for a visual of what the participants would be seeing, I decided to use Kanye's faces. Of course, the individuals in the experiment would be seeing faces that they have never seen before, so it's not biased. First, the participant would see a person's face in their neutral position. In this instance, they would just see Kanye's neutral face on the screen. Then, they would read a scenario on the screen. So, Kanye's face would just disappear and the participant would instead see Kim surprised Kanye with a dream vacation. After, they would see the same face again, but instead of the face in the neutral position, it would have changed to show an expression. So the scenario would go away and they would see a smiling Kanye. Then the participant would rate how trustworthy and likable the person was based on what they saw. In some instances, the face shown will match the scenario, like Kim surprising Kanye, which makes Kanye happy, and other times the face would not match the scenario. Now that you know how the experiment was given, we can look at the results. On the right is a graph showing the likability rating. On the x-axis, you see that it is labeled face emotion, with the three categories: fear, happy, and sad. Those are the three stereotypical emotions that the people in the photos showed. On the y-axis, it is labeled likability rating. This is how the participants rated how likable the person in the photo was, on a scale of 1 to 4. The bars on the graph are also color-coded. The dark gray represents the matched expression and scenario. For example, a happy face for a happy birthday. The light gray represents a non-matched expression and scenario, like a sad face for a happy birthday. When the emotion fear matched with the scenario, there was a rating of 2.7 on the likability scale. When the person was happy and their emotion of happiness matched the scenario, they received a rating of 3.6. When the emotion of sadness had matched the scenario, the person received a rating of 2.5. When the person showed the emotion of fearfulness and their expression did not match the scenario, they received a likability rating of 2.2. When the emotion of happiness was shown and did not match the scenario, the likability rating went down to 2. Lastly, when the person's expression showed sadness and did not match the scenario, the likability rating of the person was a 2.3. You can see that when the face matched the scenario, no matter what the expression should have been, they were perceived as more likable. When the face did not match the scenario, the likability rating of the person was low. The biggest change in likability was with the happy emotion. The graph for the trustworthiness rating is set up the same way as the likability one. The data is very similar to the likability rating. When the emotion fear matched the scenario, there was a rating of 2.8 on the trustworthiness scale. When the person was happy and their emotion of happiness matched the scenario, they received a rating of 3.5. When the emotion of sadness had matched the scenario, the person received a rating of 3. When a person showed the emotion of fearfulness and their expression did not match the scenario, they received a trustworthiness rating of 2.2. When the emotion of happiness was shown and did not match the scenario, the rating of trustworthiness went down to 1.3. Lastly, when the person's expression showed sadness and did not match the scenario, the trustworthiness rating of the person was a 2.2. The person was perceived as more likable when their emotion matched the scenario. Again, the biggest change in trustworthiness was with the happy emotion. With the data shown, the experiment's hypothesis that individuals would be evaluated as more likable and trustworthy when their facial expressions were anticipated was supported. This is supported by the data in the graph. Although the participants had never met the person shown in the photos, they were quick to assume how likable and trustworthy they were. The participants were thrown off when the expression was not what they were expecting. When they saw something that they were not anticipating, it made them judge the person badly. From this experiment, we can conclude that social perception is a part of our everyday lives. We may not even realize we are doing it, but we do it all the time. Your expressions say a lot about who you are as a person. The way you react to things and what your expression is can say if you are a caring person or if you're not. People are quick to judge and they make assumptions about your character without even knowing you. Overall, it is important to learn about this topic and be aware of it. It can affect your life in big ways. For example, you could not get your dream job because of how your expression changed when you met your interviewer. Basically, it's all about perception.